represents a gigantic raise for the former seventh-round pick, who's made less than $1 million in base salary each of the first 3 seasons in the NFL, where the San Francisco 49ers and quarterback Brock Purdy have agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract.
It's been a very bumpy year if you happen to have been a San Francisco 49ers fan, and things didn't really get that much better in the offseason. I mean, on one hand, it doesn't seem like the 49ers division rivals took a significant step forward. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks traded DK Metcalf and Geno Smith and signed Sam Darnold while also drafting Jalen Milroe. The Los Angeles Rams, for the most part, stood pat and almost lost Matthew Stafford, but agreed to a restructuring of his contract. And the Arizona Cardinals didn't make any significant leaps forward themselves either. But the San Francisco 49ers were in a very difficult situation, primarily because they were in salary cap hell, but their offseason got off to a strong start. They brought back probably their most successful defensive coordinator in the Kyle Shanahan era in Robert Saleh to coach the defense. And I would say from then on, things weren't really the greatest. The 49ers lost a significant amount of their key players. Dre Greenlaw signed with the Denver Broncos. Deebo Samuel was traded to the Washington Commanders. Talanoa Hufanga also joined the Denver Broncos, and Charvarius Ward joined the Indianapolis Colts. Even Jordan Mason, who was without a doubt the best backup halfback in the NFL, was traded to the Minnesota Vikings, and they also released Javon Hargrave, who also joined the Minnesota Vikings. And I mean, it's not like things were going swimmingly for the San Francisco 49ers prior to this. I mean, last offseason, they had no choice but to sign Brandon Ayuk to a contract extension, and in October, he would tear his ACL. The 49ers went through an injury-riddled season, and they were hoping that Brock Purdy would be able to step up and carry this team to the playoffs, and unfortunately, he wasn't capable of doing that. And this was what was really interesting about the story of Brock Purdy. On one hand, there's no question about it, he's probably the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has had ever since taking the San Francisco 49ers head coaching job. At the same time, there were questions of whether or not he was a product of the players around him and the system that was in place, or if he was capable of elevating the team beyond that. And if you were just to look at the stat sheet, I mean, Brock Purdy looked like a stud. I mean, in year one, completed 67% of his passes, won each and every single game that he was under center. I mean, the 49ers may have won a Super Bowl if he didn't get injured in the NFC Championship game. In year two, Brock Purdy was good enough to take the 49ers to the Super Bowl while completing nearly 70% of his passes, throwing for 31 TDs and only 11 interceptions. He finished top 5 in MVP voting that year, but year 3 wasn't nearly as successful. Brock Purdy slightly regressed through 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and only completed 66% of his passes, which still, by the way, is a pretty good number, but fans would quickly point out to the fact that the 49ers were dealing with injuries all year long, whether it was to their offensive line, to their best offensive player in Christian McCaffrey, dealing with the fact that Deebo Samuel was washed and just couldn't catch a football. Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL. It was just one of those years for the 49ers. But at the same time, the expectation for Brock Purdy was maybe he's good enough to carry the 49ers to the playoffs, even though I don't think it's possible for a quarterback to single-handedly take his team all the way to a Super Bowl without some help on the side. Unless, of course, if you're Patrick Mahomes, but he's Patrick Mahomes. And even in that case, Patrick Mahomes does have some decent help in the form of a strong rushing attack, a solid offensive line, a great defense, and at least a above average wide receiver core. I mean, past his prime, Nuke Hopkins is still solid. Juju Smith-Schuster was solid this past year. Rashee Rice is great when he's not injured. Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown were solid as well. Travis Kelce was a little bit washed, but he still was serviceable at the tight end position. So going into the offseason, the 49ers definitely took a gigantic step back in terms of the construction of their roster, but they really didn't have much of a choice. They tried to put a band-aid over the fact that they lost all these key players in the NFL draft, and honestly, the only way this team could have a successful year is if they hit on a majority of these picks, which of course has happened in the past, but it's also a scary thing to bet on. But at the same time, this is a team that has had a lot of success success in their late round draft picks. And they've had a lot of draft picks in the 2025 NFL draft, so for all you know, it could work out for them. I mean, they took 11 players, and this is a team that has had a lot of success recently in the NFL draft, so for all you know, it could be enough to get the 49ers over the hump. But then there was a question of, what do they do with Brock Purdy? When you take a look at the quarterback market, the highest paid QB in the NFL was paid last offseason. It was Dak Prescott. He was paid $60 million a year, and to be honest, even as a Cowboy fan, I must admit, it's a gigantic overpay. I mean, it's crazy how terrible the Jones family is at contract negotiations. Following that is a quarterback that was paid a year earlier. Joe Burrow was paid $55 million a year. You have Josh Allen, Jordan Love, and Trevor Lawrence tying that contract. And then you have the tier below that. Quarterbacks that, in my opinion, are either game managers or high-end game managers that there are some question marks about, but have proven themselves in specific scenarios. For instance, Tua. He got paid $53.1 million a year, and he's been awesome whenever his team's fully healthy, and he's fully healthy. And you have Jared Goff, who's getting paid $53 million a year, who has moments where he's prolific and then moments where he just completely disappears. I mean, he got his contract extension 1 year ago, but there's no better example of the type of player Jared Goff is than his statistics over the past year. The man was an MVP candidate, throwing for 37 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, completing 72.4% of his passes, and he was awesome until the Detroit Lions got into the playoffs, where he threw for 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. And I believe this is how the 49ers may view Brock Purdy. On one hand, there's moments where Brock Purdy has looked awesome. At the same time, this past year wasn't necessarily the greatest year for him. And it seems like the 49ers made their decision as to what Brock Purdy's value is. So according to Adam Schefter, the San Francisco 49ers are finalizing a 5-year, $265 million contract with Brock Purdy that includes $181 million in overall guaranteed money. And the reaction to this is hysterical. I mean, if you just want to take the football aspect out of it and whether or not this is a good move for the 49ers, it's truly an awesome story to see a guy that was the final pick of the 2022 NFL draft who got paid $3.7 million over 4 years to get drafted into a state that would probably collect half of that money in taxes, all the way to earning this significant sum of money. I mean, it's just awesome. And from that aspect, you have to be happy for him. On the other hand, some fans actually think this is a significant overpay. Paying Brock Purdy this sum of money ties him for the amount of money that Jared Goff is being paid, which would put him at about the 7th highest paid QB in the NFL. And believe me, I personally don't like the San Francisco 49ers at all as a Cowboy fan, and this might be a bold take, but I have to admit this is not an overpay. But it's not necessarily an underpay either. I mean, I think the best quarterback contract in the NFL is obviously the amount of money that Patrick Mahomes is getting paid, who clearly is following the Tom Brady model of trying to take cheaper contracts and banking on endorsements to make up the deficit in revenue so the Kansas City Chiefs could put together as strong of a team as humanly possible around him. But Patrick Mahomes aside, the next best quarterback contract in my opinion is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield signed a 3-year, $100 million contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2024 season, which makes up about 13.05% of the salary cap. So when you take a look at Brock Purdy's contract based off of the amount of cap that he's going to take up for the San Francisco 49ers from this season and on, it's more similar to Kirk Cousins' contract last year than it is Joe Burrow or Dak Prescott's contract this year. As a matter of fact, according to Michael Otis, Brock Purdy is only taking up 18.96% of the salary cap. And I personally believe that this contract is going to age favorably for the San Francisco 49ers. When you consider that there are additional quarterbacks that are going to get contract extensions soon that could come between the contract that Joe Burrow's getting and Dak Prescott's getting. I mean, you have Bryce Young and CJ Stroud that are up for contract extensions and could be getting paid as soon as 1 year from now. If Brock Purdy was getting paid as much as Dak Prescott, then I would say this is a huge overpay. But to be honest, given the amount that he's being given here, I just don't see it. I think the dream scenario would have been for the 49ers to pay him about $45 million a year, but at the same time, I don't think this is so egregious that it's going to screw over the San Francisco 49ers for years to come. At the the end of the day, I personally don't expect the 49ers to be very competitive this year, unless if they absolutely crushed the NFL draft this year. I feel like they lost way too much talent in the offseason to be successful, but we've seen crazier things happen. I don't think anyone's expected the Washington Commanders last year to make it all the way to the NFC Championship. So let me know in the comments section down below, especially if you're a fan of the San Francisco 49ers. How do you feel about this Brock Purdy contract? Do you think this is a huge overpay? If so, how much do you think he should have gotten paid? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.